I am standing, looking out at my truck in the parking lot. I see a girl, probably 20 years old, looking around to see if anybody is watching her. Then she jumps up in the back of my truck and gets under the tarp where my new power sprayers are located. About now you are asking yourself what is going on, right? Well, let me try to explain. First of all, I am not in the United States. I am in the Republic of Panama on the Inter-American Highway. The parking lot is in front of PriceSmart, about 20 miles from the border of Costa Rica. The girl is most likely a Colombian trying to make her way to the U.S. So why is she hiding? Panama has very strict immigration laws, and they do not permit Colombians to enter without a visa. All a citizen has to do is call the local police, and you will be paid $100 for each illegal person captured. That is about 2 weeks' pay for the average Panamanian. Why am I not calling the police and collecting my $100? Well, maybe I should start at the beginning. The name on my U.S. passport is John Williams, and the name on my Panamanian passport is Juan Diaz. Both are legal. How you ask? My father was a Navy pilot stationed in the Canal Zone. He met my mother and fell in love, married, and Mama was soon pregnant with me. Dad found out after they were married that she was not just some Panamanian girl looking for a quick way out of a poor country. No, she happened to be from one of the richest families in Panama. They owed thousands of hectares of coffee-growing land in the mountains close to Costa Rica. While my parents lived on a base in the Canal Zone and had rights to the base hospital, I was born in a hospital in Panama City. Why? Mom was visiting her parents one day and went into labor. They rushed her to the closest hospital, which happened to not be the one in the Canal Zone. So I was born in a foreign country. No way was I going to be elected president of the United States, so it did not matter. What it did was give me dual citizenship. This would come in handy later in my life. When I was about 2 years old, my dad was transferred to the States, and I was raised on Navy bases, first in California, then in Virginia. I spoke English at school and Spanish around my mother. My English turned out to be a southern drawl like my dad, who was from South Carolina. Dad was killed in a training accident when I was a junior in high school. Mom stayed in the States until I started college at Georgia Tech, and then she moved back to Panama with her family. She visited me often, and I went to Panama for holidays. When I graduated, I joined the Marines. I went to OCS, then the basic school, then to Okinawa with the 3rd Marine Division. After a month or so of getting used to the heat, I was running search and destroy patrols in and out of the DMZ, or Dead Marine Zone as we grunt referred to it. I made it back without a scratch. I decided the Marine Corps was not for me. I did my time and I had seen enough killing to last me a lifetime. I headed back to Georgia and used my mechanical engineering degree to get a pretty decent job in a plant making auto parts. That's when I met Lisa. She was a natural blonde with tall blue eyes. I fell in love with her at first sight. We dated, and after about 10 months I asked her to marry me. My mom came up for the wedding, and she told Lisa how I was the only heir to a coffee empire in Panama. Later that night, Lisa talked about signing a prenup. She said she would not have a problem, but I told her it was not necessary. Her love was all I wanted. I trusted her. Anyway, prenups are for the weak. We married in front of her family and my mother. All was well for about 2 years. We had bought a house in a new development near Atlanta and close to where we both worked. She did not have to work, but she wanted to. Every 3 months or so, I got a check for my part of the coffee sales in Panama. It was substantial. I had talked to Lisa about her quitting and us starting a family, and she always had an excuse why now was not the right time. It was her body, so I had let it slide. One day soon after we moved into our new house, I got sick at work. I took the rest of the day off and went home. As turned the corner, I noticed Lisa's car in the driveway. That was odd, she was supposed to be at work. I slowed down and parked about 3 lots from the front of my house. Like I said, this was a new development, and there were no houses near us, just empty lots. I went in the back door and I heard them in the upstairs bedroom. "Tell me you love my big black Johnson." "I love your big black Johnson," she replied. He sounded like a low-class thug. I figured he might want to fight over that woman he said was his, so I stopped by the bedroom we had converted into my home office and silently picked up my 1911.45 caliber automatic Colt pistol. I carried one just like it in Vietnam and had grown to love it. I am still alive because of that pistol, and I have continued to practice every week at a range close to the house. I fired expert while I was in the Marines, and I think I am still just as competent with it today as I was 5 years ago. I was listening to every word they said. Now they were finished having intimacy. He referred to her as his s**t. He kept going on about how one day he was going to make me watch while he was intimate with her. That seemed to make her hotter. She was mumbling something about how she would put me in a chastity device and let me watch. That's when I announced myself. She screamed and tried to cover herself with the sheet. Why? Who knows? They were caught. In a very educated voice, he says, "John, wait a minute. Just be cool. This is not what you think." How does he know my name? I think I just caught my wife in bed with a black man. So explain where I am wrong. He has the sheet pulled up to his chin just like it is going to protect him from a bullet. I almost laughed, but I did not. I pulled her makeup bench over to the foot of the bed and sat down. It is just a game we play. Everything you heard is just part of the game. I am not a thug. I am a producer with CNN. I have a wife and 2 kids. So just be cool with that pistol, and I will be gone, and you will never see me again. He started to get up, and I told him, "Sit back down." In my best command voice, he got back under the sheet. How long has this game been going on? Since college. And you never knew, so it did not hurt. But I promise it is over. I will go off the pill and we can start a family. I will never see Robert again. I promise. I love you. This is just fantasy role-playing, a game. It means nothing to either of us. I love you and want to have your babies. Please. Fantasy role-playing, a game, and it means nothing to either of you? Well, it means a lot to me. This is cheating, I screamed. Remember I told you I did not need a prenup? This is why. I nodded to my pistol. Your fantasy role-playing games, or cheating as I call it, just got the 2 of you killed. It only took 2 quick shots. Both heads explored as their brains hit the headboard behind them. I did not bother to clean up. I packed a couple of suitcases with my keepsakes and called the airline. There was a plane leaving for Panama City at 6 p.m. from the Atlanta airport. With any luck, I could be on that flight. I called my mama and told her what I had done. She said she would pick me up at the airport in Panama. I turned the air conditioner down as low as it would go, laid the pistol with my fingerprints on the bed, no use an innocent person getting blamed for this, and left. The flight was about 4 hours long. Mama did pick me up in her chauffeur-driven limo. We had a nice late supper at a local restaurant and talked. I explained to her what I had heard and how Lisa admitted it had been going on since she was in college. That was 6 years at least. Mama asked why I could not just forgive her and start a family. I told her it was a trust issue. Lisa had hidden her affair with this guy for years, and I was totally surprised. If I had not gotten sick, it would still be going on. I figure that is the reason she never wanted to have kids. It would have interfered with her fantasy role-playing games. There is no extradition treaty with Panama, so I was not afraid of the police coming for me. But now I had to find something to do here in Panama. She had an idea, and she explained it to me. The next morning, I was on the company's private plane to David, Panama. There, an employee met me and drove me the 2 hours into the mountains to my new home. It was on the coffee plantation. You have to cross a suspension bridge over a deep gorge with a fast-flowing river at the bottom. There are 2 guards who open the gate to let you onto the bridge, and they are both armed. The house was where my grandfather had started the business about 50 years ago. It is beautiful and well-maintained. I moved in and slowly started to learn the coffee business. Now that brings me back to watching that girl hide in my truck. I walk out pushing my groceries, things you can't find in a Panamanian store. Things like peanut butter, cornmeal, and pickles. You never know how much you miss simple things until you can't find them. Things like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, pickles on your hamburger, or cornbread. As I put my purchases in the truck, I say, "Just stay quiet. I am not going to turn you in. But we do have to pass a police checkpoint. If you remain still, there will be no problem." I said this in Spanish, and I heard a gracias in reply. The sergeant running the checkpoint just waved me through, and I waved at him. He received a Christmas bonus for his service every year from the coffee company, so I knew he would not be a problem. A little further down the road, I stopped and told the girl to get in the passenger seat of my four-door truck. My groceries were in the back seat. The road was going to turn to sand and rock, so riding back there was going to get really uncomfortable. That's when I got my first good look at her. She was dirty and stunk of body odor. I thought maybe I had made a mistake letting her ride in the cab with me, but it was too late now. I asked if she was Colombian, and she answered that she was from Medellin. She was on her way to the States to start a new life. Things were just too tough in Colombia. I told her to stay quiet as I pulled up to the gate at the bridge over the river. As one of my men opened the gate, I asked the other to secure the bridge for the night, meaning I did not want any visitors. No mention was made of my companion. As I drove across the bridge, I noticed her grab the seat. "This bridge is perfectly safe. I regularly drive my 2-ton truck across, so do not be afraid." It did sway a little as we crossed. At the house, I parked in the garage, which is located under the house. That would keep my new sprayers from getting rained on tonight. As we exited the truck, I told her to wait before I opened the door to the stairs leading up to the house. "The washing machine is down here, and your clothes need to be washed. Strip off, and I will bring you a towel." I hurried up the stairs and found a big beach towel and brought it back to her. She was standing there shivering in her bra and panties. "Cover up and take off your underwear and leave all your clothes here. I will put them in the washer while you bathe." I led her up the stairs to my bedroom, which has an ensuite bath. "This is my bedroom and bath. Feel free to use any soap or shampoo you want. There are razors in the drawer by the sink. Make yourself at home and get cleaned up. If you need anything, just look around. I am sure you will find it. I will have something for you to eat when you get finished." I shut the bedroom door and went to the kitchen. It was half an hour later when she reappeared. And all I could say was, "Wow!" In English, I said, "You sure clean up nice." In almost perfect English, she said, "Thank you." "You can speak English. Where did you learn?" "At the university," she replied. "That's why I want to go to the United States. I think it would be easy for me to get a job there since I know the language. You are American, right?" "I was born in Panama but grew up in the States. Now I am back running this coffee farm." "You don't mind that I borrowed some of your clothes, do you? All my things were stolen in Colombia. All I have is what I had on." "You look nice, and no, I do not mind you wearing my clothes." How could I? She had on one of my t-shirts, no bra, of course, and a pair of my sweatpants with no shoes. The t-shirt was tied in a knot just under her breasts, and her stomach was bare. Her long black hair was combed back and tied in a ponytail. She looked so cute. "Hungry?" I asked. "Very much," she replied. "I am sorry, but I fired my cook a couple of weeks ago and have not found one I like, so you will have to put up with my cooking. I have opened a can of tomato soup for us. She was starved and ate like it." As we finished, she asked if she could look around the kitchen. Sure, why not? She opened the cabinets and studied their contents, then the refrigerator and the freezer. "You have plenty of food here in the house. Why don't you let me prepare us a proper meal? I'm a pretty good cook." "Go ahead. Fix anything you want." As she started to select what she wanted to prepare for our supper, she started talking as I sat and watched her. "I want to tell you the truth about why I left Colombia. I killed a man, my boss. After I graduated the university with a degree in accounting, I got a job at a company in Medellin. Things were going well for me until my boss decided he wanted to have intimacy with me. He was old, married with grandkids, fat man, definitely not the Casanova he thought himself to be. He harassed me daily. When he found out that I lived alone, it got even worse, if that is possible. He suggested we could use my apartment as our love nest and that nobody would ever know. One night about 1 a.m., there was a pounding at the door. It was him. I got to the door just as he kicked it open. He pushed by me, slammed the door shut, and proceeded to drag me into the bedroom. There, he tore off my robe and threw me on the bed. He announced that he was tired of waiting on me and that he was here to have his way. He proceeded to undress. I decided to play along and told him he would have to use a condom since I was not on birth control. I opened the drawer in my bedside table like I was getting one for him. He smiled. I do not think he ever saw the knife. I plunged it directly into his heart, and he was dead before he hit the floor. I knew he was politically connected, so I grabbed what I could and ran over to a friend's house. I told her what I had done, and she let me have her ID card. We look enough alike that I could use it to buy a bus ticket to the frontier with Panama. I made it all the way to David. That's where I saw your truck in the parking lot. And here I am. I imagine Interpol is after me. So that's my story. Can I stay the night and leave in the morning, or do you want me to leave now? You are so lucky. I am here because I killed my wife and her lover when I found them together in my bed. I imagine Interpol is after me also. You can stay as long as you want and feel safe. Nobody is going to come looking for you here. So she stayed. I told her what I had done in the States was no big deal. I never hid it from anyone. Sonia is a great cook and helps me in the office with the payroll and accounts. I run the farm and help out with the kids. Oh, I forgot. We have 4 kids, all girls. After the first girl was born, my mother started coming up from the city more often. Sonia loves her, and Mama, she loves being abuela, and she spoils the kids rotten. 25 years later. The perspective of Nancy. I'm an investigative reporter. I write for a major magazine that you all know well. You see it every time you check out at the grocery store or go into a convenience store to buy beer. Last month, I was in Atlanta trying to get some information for my next article. When I visited CNN headquarters, I overheard a conversation about a double murder that happened 25 years ago. I was in the lunchroom and these 2 secretaries were talking about how a producer was found murdered in bed with one of the secretaries. Both were married but not to each other. That is what caused the strict no fraternization policy. So the older one was warning the new one not to start anything with anybody here or she would be fired. Human Resources had strict orders and there were no second chances. A reporter can smell a good story. I got up and went to their table and introduced myself. I told them I was interested in the murders. The older one said the police knew who did it but never caught the guy. It seems it was the woman's husband. He left the pistol on the bed with his fingerprints and vanished. Now this is a story. Cheaters caught by the husband, murdered in bed together. Anything else? Well, he was black and she was white. Does that matter? Hell yes. Now we have a great story. I asked for names and addresses. She could not help me, but directed me to HR and Mrs. Simpson. She has worked at CNN since the beginning, and she would have all the information I would need. I thanked them and went to see this Simpson woman. She was very helpful. She gave me names, addresses, ages, and more gossip about the story. It seems these 2 had met in college and started an affair. He married first and had 2 kids. But the affair never stopped. It was because he loved this white woman. When she graduated, he helped her get a job there at CNN as a secretary. I think they got together about once a week, but that is just my suspicions. This secretary met a former Marine officer who was just back from Vietnam and married him. 2 years later, he caught her and her lover in bed together and shot them. That's all she knew. I thanked her and left. I went directly to the small town just outside of Atlanta. The police department was very helpful. I managed to find a detective who knew the case and sat in his office while he told me the story. This was before my time, but I have read the file. The day after the murders, someone from CNN called and asked if we could check on one of their secretaries. She was very dependable, but had left for lunch yesterday and did not come back. Then she did not come to work today, and they could not get any answer on the phone. We had a unit swing by their house to check on her. The officers found everything in order, but no answer at the door. When one of the officers went around back, he noticed the air conditioner running. It was a cool, rainy day, and he thought that odd. He felt the windows, and they were cold. He called it in and received permission to enter the house. In an upstairs bedroom, they found the two. They were sitting up in bed with the sheet pulled up to their chins. There was a bench from a makeup table at the foot of the bed, like someone was talking to them. The .45 was found on the bed, and it was determined later that the fingerprints of the husband were on the pistol. From the crime scene, we thought it looked like he had a conversation with them before he shot them, so we charged the husband with 2 counts of first-degree murder. We found out that he had left his job that day, complaining he was sick and never came back. We knew he was a former Marine infantry officer with 1 tour in Vietnam. He also had dual citizenship in the country of Panama. We found that a one-way ticket had been purchased in the name on his Panamanian passport, Juan Diaz. He is in Panama, and there is not an extradition treaty with them. To top it all off, he is the only heir to a coffee empire. So we just filed the case away, and if he ever comes back to the States, we'll pick him up at immigration. I got the address of the wife, and I thanked the detective and left. I wanted to find out what she knew about the affair. She was just getting home with the kids when I pulled up. I noticed there were 2 kids, and they were too young to be the dead husband's kids. I introduced myself and told her what I was doing. She told the kids to go into the house and start their homework. I really don't have time to get into all of that just now. I have to help my grandkids with their homework, then get supper for all of us, and we go to church this evening. But if you would like to come back tomorrow around 9:30 a.m., I will have a pot of coffee ready, and I will tell you the entire story. I told her I would be back in the morning. I ate an early dinner at Waffle House, then back to the hotel. I put my notes in order, watched a little television, then went to sleep. The next morning, I was walking up to her front door at 9:30. "Come into the kitchen. How do you take your coffee?" "Black, no sugar," was my reply. I sat across from her at the kitchen table, and she served me the coffee. I noticed her coffee was about half milk. Yuck. Milk ruins good coffee. But let's get started. I met Robert in college. He was 2 years ahead of me. He was smart, and he had a plan. He wanted to be a writer. He loved to write, so he took a lot of English courses and writing courses. He asked me out one day, and I accepted. I loved him from the first time I saw him, and I thought he loved me. I was sleeping with him after the second date. In 3 months, I was pregnant, and I told him. I said I would get an abortion, but he said no. He asked me to marry him that night. I was so happy. I quit school and we got married. He graduated about 2 months later and got a job writing for the newspaper. We bought a house, and I had a baby, a boy. Then about a year later, I got pregnant again. He got offered a job as a producer at a cable news company. It was his dream job. We moved into a bigger house, and I had the second boy. My life was perfect. Then one night, he does not come home from work. I waited until about 8 p.m., then I got really worried. I called one of his friends from work, and they told me he left for lunch and never came back. I called the police and was told I had to wait 72 hours to file a missing persons report since he is an adult. I called his parents and my mother. No one has any idea where he could be. It was the next day about noon that 2 detectives showed up at my door. They tell me that Robert was found shot to death in bed with some white girl. I am in shock. No way, not my Robert, the father of my boys. He would not do that to us. Then they started wanting to know where I was yesterday around noon and if I owned a gun. I was a suspect. I called my mother to come and keep the kids while I went to the station with them. By the time we got there, the fingerprints on the gun came back as the girl's husband. So they told me to go home and they would contact me about the body. Now I am mad. Robert was having an affair with this white woman and had been murdered by her husband. Good for him. If I had caught them in my bed, I would have killed them both also. I was so mad that after the autopsy, I did not claim the body. That was left to his parents. I refused to go to the funeral or take my kids. I hated Robert at that moment. My happy life was over. My mother had to move into my house to help with the kids while I found a job. We had a big house with 4 bedrooms. Robert had turned one into his office, which he kept locked, so the kids could not disturb anything. I got the door opened and decided to throw away all his things. I did not want anything of his left in my house. He was a lying, cheating bastard. That was what I thought of him. It was when I pried open one of his desk drawers that I got the surprise of my life. Robert kept a journal. He started it when he was a senior in high school. He was very detailed in his writing, and he described everything in such detail. The people he met, the places he visited, and his feelings. He was a good writer even at that early age. It was when I got to his sophomore year in college that his journal got really interesting. He was in a creative writing class and had been assigned a partner for a project. They were to write opposing views of the same story. His partner turned out to be this Lisa, the white girl. After running through a number of things, they come up with this crazy idea that they will write opposing views of what a black man thinks about when making love to a white girl, and then what is going on in the mind of the white girl. To be actuate, they got together and had intimacy. The paper received an A. They started getting together about once a week to play out different fantasies. And they had a lot of fantasies. She was just as involved in making them up as Robert, according to his journals. They had about 5 that they used more than once. The affair continued even after I met and fell in love with him, even after we married and started to have our kids. He was always so careful. His journal explained how he took measures so that I never suspected he was with this Lisa. And in his writings, he never called it cheating. They were playing some type of stupid game. They were not in love with each other, just living out different fantasies. Even when she met this former Marine and fell in love, they did not stop. But according to his journals, they were going to have to pause for a while. She and her husband wanted to start a family, and she was not going to take a chance of Robert being the father. She told Robert she loved her husband and did not want to risk losing him. When she went off the pill, they would have to stop their games until she was sure she was pregnant. Then they could start up again. She had said, according to the journals, "Just think of all the new fantasies we can have when you are a pregnant white woman." What a dumb woman. Anyway, I guess it all came to an end when the husband got sick and came home at lunch. I was going crazy when Robert did not come home that night and could not sleep. Then the next day, the police showed up at my door, and you know the rest of that story. There was another thing that was strange. The police could not find anyone at CNN who reported the secretary not showing up for work. The caller on the 911 tape sounded like a woman with a Spanish accent, but they could not be sure. The front door of the house was unlocked, so the police did not have to break in, and the air conditioner was on high, so the house was cold. Why? I'll tell you what I think. That house was not in Lisa's or John's names. It was bought by some trust controlled by a bank in Panama. Soon after the police released it as a crime scene, all the furniture was moved out. By who? And then the house was sold. I believe the air conditioner was left on high to keep the bodies from sinking up the place, and the call was to get the police to find them quickly. That's what I think. Back to the perspective of John Williams or Juan Diaz. 25 years have passed since that day I found Lisa in bed with her lover. Time moves differently in the mountains of Panama. The coffee plantation thrives, the river still roars beneath the suspension bridge, and the guards still open the gate every morning, their rifles slung over their shoulders. Life continues on, far from the chaos of the outside world. Sonia and I have built a life here, one that feels almost unreal. We now have 4 daughters, all grown, and my mother, abuela to them, still visits from the city. spoiling them rotten. Sonia, with her troubled past, found peace in our hidden corner of the world, and so have I. Together, we manage the plantation, raise our family, and carry the weight of secrets, hers, mine, and the ones that have yet to find their way into the light. The memories of what I did in Atlanta sometimes haunt me, but they are distant shadows now. Panama, with its lack of an extradition treaty, has given me a life of freedom, one where I don't have to answer for my actions. I never hid what I did from anyone. Sonia knows. My mother knows. And even some of the old-timers on the plantation have heard rumors. But out here, in the dense, sun-drenched coffee fields, none of that seems to matter. Justice, betrayal, revenge, they're all stories from another world, one I left behind long ago. But sometimes, when I watch the sunset over the mountains, I think about how everything could have been different. Maybe I could have forgiven Lisa. Maybe I could have walked away. But that moment, her betrayal, her lover's arrogance, lit a fire in me that I couldn't extinguish. My whole life was built on trust, and when that was shattered, I did what I thought I had to do. I killed them both. No regret, just survival. It's how I've always lived. Now, as I stand on the porch of my house, watching the river and the endless stretch of coffee plants, I wonder what the future holds. Panama is booming, the world is changing, and I know that one day my past might catch up to me. Maybe some eager journalist will come knocking, or maybe they won't. Either way, I'm prepared. I've made peace with who I am and the choices I've made. For now, life goes on. I've learned to live with my decisions, and I've made a good life here. But deep down, I know that the ghosts of my past may never completely disappear. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.